Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time, way back, to a life that probably feels as alien to you as a flip phone does to a toddler. Imagine, if you will, the gentle creak of a wooden bed frame, the scent of damp earth and wood smoke clinging to the air, and the distant crow of a rooster cutting through the pre-dawn quiet. You're not waking up to the gentle hum of your smart speaker or the tantalizing aroma of brewing coffee. Oh no, your alarm clock is the relentless rhythm of nature, and your immediate future involves some serious muscle work. You probably won't survive this, honestly. It's a reality check for your soft, modern hands, that's for sure. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie there, nestled deep in a straw mattress, or perhaps a rough cotton one, feeling the chill seep in from the unheated room. It's a bone-deep cold that modern central heating has all but eradicated from our collective memory. The air, crisp and still, carries the faint, earthy scent of the barn, a subtle reminder of the life outside your window. No matter how snugly you pull the patchwork, quilt stitched with care from scraps of worn-out garments up to your chin, that chill always finds its way in. Your breath, a faint cloud in the dim light, tells you it's still hours before the sun even considers making an appearance. But for you, a 19th century American farmer, the sun is a mere suggestion of when the hardest work should begin, not a prerequisite. You listen, not to podcasts or the curated playlists of your youth, but to the natural symphony of the farm waking up, the soft rustle of straw in the barn as the cows shift their weight, a low moo, the distant bleat of a sheep, maybe the almost imperceptible scratching of mice in the walls. They're all part of your world's soundtrack. It's a quiet that is deafening to modern ears, a profound absence of mechanical hums and digital alerts. There's no glowing screen beside your bed, no urge to check for notifications. Your internal clock, honed by years of rising with the animals, is your guide. It's a stark contrast to our own frantic morning routines, isn't it? Imagine a life where your greatest technology is a well-crafted axe or a sturdy plow as the first sliver of gray light begins to paint the eastern sky, seeping through the single small window of your bedroom likely shared with several siblings, perhaps even your parents. Depending on the size and prosperity of your farmhouse, you push yourself up. The wooden floorboards, worn smooth by generations of footsteps, groan beneath your weight. They're cold, so cold, and you quickly pull on heavy woolen stockings and sturdy trousers, layering against the pervasive dampness. Comfort is a luxury, warmth a necessity for survival. Your clothes aren't chosen for fashion, but for durability and utility. Each thread serves a purpose. Each stitch tells a story of practicality. You move through the hushed house, avoiding creaky spots if you can, trying not to disturb those still sleeping. The smell of wood smoke is stronger now, hinting at the smoldering embers in the hearth, kept alive overnight, if possible, to avoid the arduous task of starting a new fire from scratch. This act of keeping the fire alive, often by burying coals in ash, was a common practice, highlighting the constant struggle for warmth and efficiency. Historians still argue whether the widespread adoption of specific fire-starting techniques truly impacted daily routines more than the availability of tinder itself. It's a small detail, but one that speaks volumes about the constant, small battles fought against the elements. Your first stop is the kitchen, the heart of the home. Here, the large stone fireplace dominates, its soot-stained maw a silent testament to countless meals cooked and countless hours spent huddled for warmth. You carefully uncover the embers, coaxing them back to life with a few dry twigs and a gentle puff of breath. The first lick of flame is a triumph, chasing away the shadows and offering a promise of warmth to come. Soon, the rhythmic crackle and pop of the burning wood fills the room, a comforting sound that speaks of home and hearth. You place a kettle of water over the flame, its iron black and heavy, for the morning's coffee or tea, though more likely just hot water to loosen the morning's chill. This isn't your fancy artisanal coffee from a local cafe. It's likely a strong, bitter brew made from roasted grains, or a simple herbal tea if you're lucky. Outside, the darkness still clings, but the sounds of the farm are growing louder. The cows are stirring with more intent, their lowing becoming more insistent. The chickens, roused from their roosts, begin their clucking symphony, demanding their morning feed. You can hear the distant snorts and shifting of the horses in the barn. It's a wake-up call that's impossible to ignore, a chorus of hungry mouths and urgent needs. This isn't a job you can clock out of. This is your life, a 24/7 commitment to the land and the animals that sustain you. You are intertwined with this rhythm, a cog in the wheel of nature's relentless cycle. You step outside, the cold air hitting your face like a slap. The ground is often damp, perhaps even frosty, under your rough leather boots. The stars, still brilliant in the pre-dawn sky, seem impossibly close, untouched by the light pollution that blankets our modern cities. You look up, perhaps for a moment, to admire the Big Dipper, a celestial compass that has guided farmers for millennia. Then, your gaze falls to the east, watching for the faintest blush of pink and orange on the horizon, a signal that your long day is truly about to begin. There's a certain stoicism required, a grim determination that sets the tone for the day. You don't complain about the cold or the darkness. You simply endure, because complaining changes nothing. A whimsical thought crosses your mind. If only you had a heated vest and a headlamp like those modern campers, you'd be living in luxury. But alas, your only warmth comes from effort, and your only light from the moon and the soon-to-rise sun. The sounds of the farm are now a full-blown orchestra of necessity. The faint smell of manure, damp earth, and dew-kissed grass fills your nostrils. It's not a perfume, but it's the scent of productivity, the aroma of a life lived in direct communion with the land. You pass the outhouse, a brief and chilly stop that reminds you of the stark realities of hygiene in a time before indoor plumbing. No porcelain throne, no endless supply of toilet paper, just a simple pit, a wooden seat, and a corn cob, or perhaps some old newspaper if you're lucky. It's a humbling start to the day, one that brings the simplicity and hardship of 19th century life into sharp, uncomfortable focus. This daily ritual, often overlooked in romanticized historical accounts, was a stark reminder of the basic necessities and limitations of the era. The very act of answering nature's call was a task requiring forethought and resilience, particularly in winter's icy grip. It wasn't just about privacy. It was about managing waste and maintaining a rudimentary sense of cleanliness in a world without sophisticated sanitation systems. Think about your smartphone in the bathroom. Now imagine an outhouse in the snow. Just a bit different, right? As you approach the barn, the lowing of the cattle grows louder, more insistent. You can almost feel their impatience through the rough-hewn wooden walls. Your hands, already calloused from years of labor, reach for the heavy wooden latch. The door creaks open, revealing the warm, musky air of the barn, a welcome contrast to the biting cold outside. The scent of hay, animal warmth, and the distinct aroma of manure is strong here, a comforting, familiar smell for a farmer. This is your office, your factory floor, your lifeline. It's here, among the animals, that a significant portion of your day's work will unfold. The sight of your animals, often a source of both frustration and profound connection, is a daily affirmation of your purpose. Each cow, each pig, each chicken represents a vital component of your survival, a living investment in your family's future. You might even give a gentle pat to old Bessie, the dairy cow, a silent acknowledgement of her crucial role. It's a relationship built on mutual reliance, a bond forged in the crucible of daily necessity. The first task, before the sun has even considered gracing the horizon with its presence, is to feed your hungry charges. You grab a pitchfork, its wooden handle smooth and worn, and begin to pull down hay from the loft above. The dry strands fall in a golden cascade, releasing a dusty, sweet scent that fills the barn. You fork generous piles into the stalls, and the cattle immediately push their heads in, their rough tongues making a slurping sound as they devour their breakfast. It's a symphony of contented munching, a sound that speaks of immediate gratitude, and the promise of milk and meat. You move among them, a silent presence, checking each animal, running your hand over their flanks, looking for any signs of illness or injury. A limping cow or a sickly pig can mean disaster for a family reliant on every ounce of their production. It's about safeguarding your entire livelihood. Next, you move to the milking. You settle onto a low, three-legged stool, the wood cold against your backside. The cow, often a creature of habit, shifts slightly, her warm flank pressing against your shoulder. The rhythmic swoosh swoosh of milk hitting the tin pail is a familiar, comforting sound. Your hands, strong and practiced, work quickly, coaxing the creamy liquid from the teats. It's a repetitive motion, one that could almost be done in your sleep, but it requires focus. A kicked pail, a nervous cow, or simply hands aching from the cold can make the task frustrating. You're thinking about the butter that will be churned, the cheese that will be made, the milk that will nourish your children. Historians still argue whether the perceived ease of hand milking compared to later mechanical methods actually made farm life more or less efficient, given the intense daily labor involved. You chuckle to yourself, imagining some city folk trying this with their fancy life. They flutter and squawk, a flurry of feathers and indignant clucks as you scatter feed across the dirt floor of their coop. Their beady eyes watch your every move, darting for the grains. Then you reach into the nesting boxes, your fingers probing beneath the straw for the warm, smooth eggs. Table. There's a certain satisfaction in holding a warm egg that was laid just moments ago, a direct connection to the cycle of life and your role within it. Outside the barn, you turn your attention to the pigs, usually housed in a separate pen, often a muddy, odorous affair. They greet you with enthusiastic grunts and squeals. Pigs are remarkably efficient converters of feed into meat, making them an indispensable part of a farmer's diversified operation. The smell is robust, shall we say, but it's the smell of future bacon, of hams curing in the smokehouse, of lard for cooking and soap making. You're constantly calculating, constantly planning ahead. Every action today impacts your ability to survive tomorrow. As the sky brightens, painting the clouds in soft hues of pink and gold, you might pause for a moment, leaning on a fence post, taking a deep breath of the crisp morning air. The initial rush of chores is done, but the day has only just begun. This brief respite is a luxury, a moment to appreciate the quiet beauty of the waking world before the full assault of the day's labor begins. You might notice the dew clinging to the spiderwebs, spun like delicate lace between blades of grass, or the distant call of a hawk circling high above. These small observations are your only entertainment, your only connection to a world beyond the confines of your farm. The work isn't just about feeding animals, though. It's also about maintaining the tools, the fences, the structures themselves. You might notice a loose board on the barn, a hinge that needs oiling, a gate that sags. These small maintenance tasks are endless, a constant battle against entropy and wear. You make a mental note, adding it to the ever-growing list of things that need doing. There's no Home Depot down the road, no quick trip to a hardware store. Repairs mean either making do with what you have or spending precious time and resources crafting a replacement. Perhaps you spend a few minutes sharpening your axe, the rhythmic rasp of the whetstone against the steel a meditation in itself. A sharp tool is a safe tool and an efficient tool, allowing you to conserve your precious energy. As the sun finally peaks over the horizon, casting long shadows across the dukest fields, you might head to the woodpile. Firewood is a constant necessity for cooking, for heating, for warmth against the relentless cold of winter. The sharp crack of steel against wood echoes in the still morning air, a powerful, primal sound. Each swing is deliberate, precise, aimed at splitting the logs into manageable pieces, perhaps to the plans for the day's planting or the health of your youngest child. You might also be responsible for bringing water from the well. This isn't just turning on a tap. You haul heavy buckets, sloshing water as you make your way back to the house, your shoulders aching with the effort. Every drop is earned, every task a physical exertion. It's a far cry from the instantaneous convenience we take for granted today. And remember that water isn't just for drinking, it's for cooking, for washing, for every conceivable need in the household. It's a constant demand on your strength and time. Imagine trying to make a pot of coffee without an unlimited supply of running water. You quickly realize just how much goes into those simple pleasures. It's enough to make you appreciate even a slight drip from your modern faucet. Back inside, the warm kitchen, the fire in the hearth, is now roaring, a comforting presence, tending to the younger children, setting out clothes. There's an unspoken division of labor, a clear understanding of roles that keeps the farm running smoothly. While you've been out in the cold, dealing with animals and wood, the women of the house have been stoking the fire, perhaps kneading dough for bread or tending to a stew that has been simmering slowly overnight. The smells are beginning to mingle, the wood smoke, the aroma of cooking food, a faint scent of drying herbs hanging from the rafters. You wash your hands in a basin of water, perhaps still a bit chilly, but a welcome cleansing after the morning's work. Your clothes are likely stained with mud, hay, and the telltale signs of farm life. You wear what's practical, what's durable, what can withstand the rigors of your day. The distinction between work clothes and going out clothes is a luxury, one you rarely indulge. Maybe you give a quick scrub to your face, shaking off the last vestiges of sleep. The house, though simple, is a testament to resilience. Its walls, often log or rough-hewn timber, provide scant insulation, but they offer shelter from the biting winds and driving rain. There are no decorative flourishes, no frivolous trinkets. Every item serves a purpose, a reflection of a life focused on necessity and survival. A quirky tidbit: some farmers would collect bits of glass and embed them in their window frames, not for light, but as a rudimentary form of security, reflecting any nocturnal intruders. It's a testament to the constant vigilance required in such an isolated existence as the rest of the family gathers. The sounds of morning chatter begin to fill the small space. Children, rubbing the sleep from their eyes, tumble out of their beds, their soft footsteps on the floorboards. The rhythm of the farm, which began with your silent, solitary work in the pre-dawn darkness, now expands to include the collective energy of the entire household. Everyone has a role, from the youngest child helping to gather eggs to the eldest daughter assisting with cooking and spinning. There is no concept of free time as we understand it today. Every moment is dedicated to the perpetuation of the farm and the well-being of the family. Breakfast is a simple, hearty affair, a fuel stop for the demanding day ahead. You gather around the sturdy wooden table, often crafted by hand years ago, its surface scarred with the marks of countless meals. There are no fancy tablecloths or delicate china, just plain, utilitarian earthenware and perhaps some chipped pewter plates. The air is thick with the aroma of freshly baked bread, perhaps some roasted corn mush, and the strong, dark coffee or herbal tea brewed over the hearth. You might have some of the milk you just painstakingly extracted from the cows, still warm and frothy. Perhaps there are some eggs, a luxury for some, a daily staple for others, depending on the abundance of your flock. Meat is less common at breakfast, usually reserved for the larger midday or evening meals, if at all. This isn't a leisurely brunch with mimosas and endless conversations. It's a quiet, efficient operation. Each family member eats quickly, focused on the task of sustenance. The children, still sleepy-eyed, are encouraged to eat all they can. There's no wasted food, no picky eaters complaining about their options. Every crumb is valuable, every morsel a testament to the hard work that produced it. You eat with a practiced efficiency, your thoughts already drifting to the fields, to the tasks awaiting you outside. There's a subtle choreography to the meal, a silent understanding of roles. The women of the household, often your wife and older daughters, serve the food, ensuring everyone has enough. They keep the fire stoked, the kettle boiling, and the kitchen a hub of quiet industry. While you eat, you might discuss the day's plans with your wife. The south field needs plowing, you might say, or we'll start on the beans today, weather permitting. There's no elaborate planning session. Decisions are made based on immediate needs, the weather, and the ever-present rhythm of the agricultural calendar. The children listen, absorbing these discussions, learning the intricate dance of farm life through osmosis. They are not merely passive observers. Even the youngest has a role, however small, in the functioning of the household. From fetching water to gathering kindling, every hand is needed. The family dynamics are clear, defined by necessity and tradition. The father, you, is the undisputed head of the household, responsible for the heavy labor, the major decisions regarding crops and livestock, and providing for the family's material needs. Your wife manages the household, often a more diverse and equally demanding set of tasks: cooking, cleaning, sewing, churning butter, making soap, preserving food, tending to the garden, raising the children, and often assisting with lighter farm chores like milking or caring for chickens. The children, from a young age, are integrated into this workforce. They learn by doing, mimicking their parents, becoming apprentices in the lifelong trade of farming. There's no concept of a separate childhood as we understand it today. Childhood is simply a period of intense learning and increasing responsibility. After the meal, there's a quick clearing of the table. Dishes are washed in a basin of water, often heated over the fire, and then set to dry. No dishwashers here, just diligent hands and well-worn rags. The remains of the meal, if any, are carefully scraped into a pail for the pigs or chickens, ensuring nothing goes to waste. The focus immediately shifts to the next set of tasks. For you, this means heading back out to the fields. The sun is higher now, casting a gentle warmth over the landscape, but the air still carries a crisp bite. You retrieve your tools, the heavy wooden plow, perhaps a hoe or a rake from the tool shed. These tools are often hand-forged, passed down through generations, each dent and scratch telling a story of countless hours of labor. They are not mass-produced. They are extensions of your own hands, finely tuned instruments of your trade. You might spend a few moments sharpening the plowshare, ensuring it will cut cleanly through the stubborn earth. A dull plow makes the already arduous task even more back-breaking. As you walk towards the fields, perhaps a quarter mile or more from the farmhouse, you might notice the signs of the seasons. In spring, the bare trees are beginning to bud, a promise of new life. In summer, the fields are a vibrant green, teeming with growth. In autumn, the leaves are turning, a fiery display before the long sleep of winter. Each season brings its own set of demands, its own unique challenges and opportunities. Your life is dictated by these cycles, a constant dance with nature's rhythms. There's no escaping it, no calling in sick. The work must be done regardless of rain, heat, or cold. Reaching the edge of the field, you prepare your team, usually a pair of sturdy oxen or horses, powerful animals that are essential to your livelihood. You hitch them to the plow, a process that requires patience and skill. The animals are well trained. You speak to them in low, soothing tones, guiding them into position, fitting the heavy leather harnesses. The smell of their breath, their warm bodies, and the earthy scent of their manure mingle in the air. This relationship with your draft, animals is a crucial one. They are partners in your labor, and their health and strength directly impact your success. Then begins the arduous task of plowing. You grasp the handles of the plow, feeling the weight of the implement and the pull of the animals. With a shouted command, the oxen or horses lean into their harnesses, and the plowshare bites into the earth. The soil, rich and dark, turns over in a slow, continuous furrow. It's a mesmerizing sight, the transformation of raw earth into neat, orderly rows, ready for planting. But the effort involved is immense. Each step is a struggle. Your muscles strain, your back aches, and your hands grip the wooden handles until your knuckles are white. The ground can be stubborn, rocky, or clumpy, resisting the plow's bite. Sometimes the plow gets stuck on a root or a rock, jerking violently and forcing you to brace yourself. Cursing under your breath, you walk slowly, deliberately, behind the plow, guiding it with precision, ensuring the furrows are straight and evenly spaced. This isn't just brute force. It's a skill, an art form passed down through generations. A poorly plowed field can lead to uneven germination, reduced yields, and wasted effort. You're constantly assessing the soil, listening to the sounds of the plow, feeling the resistance in your hands. The sun, now fully risen, begins its ascent, and soon you'll feel its warmth on your back. The air fills with the rich, loamy scent of freshly turned earth, a smell that signals productivity and the promise of new life. As you trudge back and forth across the field, hours blend into a single, continuous effort. The only breaks are brief pauses to allow the animals to rest or to clear debris from the plowshare. You might wipe the sweat from your brow with the back of your hand, your shirt already clinging to your skin despite the morning chill. Your mind, though focused on the task, might wander to the coming harvest, to the prices you hope to get at market, to the needs of your family. Every furrow you turn is an investment in your future. It's a deeply physical meditation, a repetitive motion that allows for both intense focus and quiet contemplation. A quirky historical fact: before widespread adoption of steel plows, many farmers used wooden plows tipped with iron, which were constantly breaking and needing repair, adding another layer of frustration to the already back-breaking work. Historians still argue whether the invention of John Deere's self-scouring steel plow in the 1830s had a more significant impact on westward expansion than the availability of cheap land. For you, the farmer struggling with that wooden beast, any improvement would be a miracle. You can almost feel the splinters in your hands just thinking about it. The sounds around you are the sounds of labor, the creak of the harness, the rhythmic shuffle of the animal's hooves, the crunch of soil being turned, your own heavy breathing. Perhaps a bird sings from a nearby tree, oblivious to your struggles, a small, cheerful counterpoint to the endless toil. You might occasionally let out a grunt of effort or a soft word of encouragement to your animals. There's little conversation out here. The work demands your full attention. You look across the field, seeing the progress you've made, a patchwork of dark, freshly turned earth against the lighter, unplowed soil. It's a tangible representation of your effort, a small victory in the face of immense challenge. But you also see how much is left to do. The field stretches out before you, seemingly endless, a testament to the sheer scale of the labor involved in feeding a family let alone a nation. There's no quitting when you're tired. You quit when the work is done, or when the light fails. And even then, your thoughts remain on the land, on the crops, on the endless cycle of sowing and reaping. This is the bedrock of 19th century American life. The land, the labor, the unwavering dedication to coaxing sustenance from the earth. You are part of a vast network of individuals engaged in this same struggle all across the burgeoning nation. Your sweat and muscle power are literally building the foundation of a new society, one furrow at a time. And as the sun climbs higher, intensifying its gaze upon the fields, you push onward, one laborious step after another, embodying the silent, resilient spirit of the American farmer. As the morning wears on, the sun climbs higher, and the chill that clung to the air earlier gradually gives way to a growing warmth. Your muscles, initially stiff and aching, have now settled into a rhythm, a continuous hum of exertion. The scent of freshly turned earth, rich and dark, fills your nostrils with every breath, a raw, primal perfume that speaks of productivity and the promise of sustenance. You're no longer just plowing, you are immersed in the act, a living extension of the plow itself, guiding it through the stubborn soil with an almost intuitive understanding. The furrow stretches behind you, a long, dark ribbon against the lighter, unplowed earth. You glance back periodically, assessing your progress, making sure the lines are straight, the depth consistent. A good farmer takes pride in a well-plowed field. It's a visible testament to skill and diligence. Each pass feels interminable, yet the overall transformation of the field is a satisfying, if slow, revelation. You might pause occasionally, leaning on the plow handles, wiping the sweat from your brow with a calloused hand. Your shirt, now damp with perspiration, clings to your back. The sun beats down with increasing intensity, and you can feel its warmth soaking into your skin. Your draft animals, whether oxen or horses, work tirelessly beside you, their breath steaming in the cooler pockets of air, their powerful muscles rippling under their hides. You speak to them in low, steady tones, words of encouragement or gentle commands. They are more than just beasts of burden. They are partners in this relentless labor. You know their quirks, their strengths, their moments of stubbornness. You adjust your pace to theirs, ensuring they don't overexert themselves, for their well-being is intrinsically linked to your own lame horse, or an exhausted ox means a halt to your work, and time is a luxury you cannot afford. This mutual reliance creates a bond that city dwellers of the era, and certainly of today, could barely comprehend. The sounds of the field are your constant companions, the rhythmic creak of the leather harnesses, the steady clop-clop of hooves on the dirt, the metallic scrape of the plowshare cutting through the soil, and the occasional grunt of effort from yourself. Perhaps a distant crow calls from a stand of trees, or the buzzing of a fly circles your head, an irritating but familiar presence. There's little in the way of conversation out here. The work demands focus, and your mind is often occupied with calculations. You're thinking about the weather, about the optimal time for planting, about the market prices for your crops, about how much seed you have left, and how much land still needs to be prepared. A mainstream historical fact, often overlooked, is the sheer variety of implements a farmer might possess, even in the 19th century. Beyond the basic plow, there would be harrows, cultivators, Reapers, though early ones, were very basic and numerous hand tools. Each one was a significant investment, often passed down through generations. A quirky tidbit: some farmers would attach small bells to their plow harnesses, not for decoration, but to help them keep a straight furrow, listening to the consistent jingle as they walked. If the sound changed, it might indicate they were veering off course. Historians still argue whether the perceived laziness of using such aids actually improved efficiency or simply catered to a less skilled workforce. You, however, just wish you had a drone to survey the field for you. As the morning progresses, the thought of the midday meal begins to creep into your mind. It's not a hunger for gourmet delights, but a deep, gnawing need for replenishment, for the calories to fuel the relentless output of energy. You know your wife or one of the older children will likely bring it out to you in the field: a bucket of water or lukewarm coffee, and a basket containing simple provisions. This brief pause is a highlight of your day, a chance to rest your aching muscles and momentarily escape the sun's direct gaze when the signal comes. Perhaps a distant wave or a child calling your name. You pull the plow to a halt, unhitch the animals, and lead them to a shady spot. You might rub their noses, speaking softly to them, acknowledging their effort. Then you collapse onto the ground, finding whatever shade you can, perhaps beneath a lone tree at the edge of the field. The feeling of finally sitting down, even on the rough earth, is pure bliss. Your back aches, your shoulders throb, and your hands are sore and gritty from gripping the plow handles. The meal itself is humble but vital, likely cold cornbread, perhaps some dried meat or cheese if you're lucky, and often just some hardtack or biscuits, washed down with plain water or cold coffee. There are no paper plates or plastic cutlery. Everything is brought in reusable containers, often wrapped in cloth. You eat quickly, savoring each bite, the food tasting all the better for the effort expended to earn it. The conversation, if any, is brief and functional, often focusing on the progress of the work or immediate household needs. The child who brought the meal might linger for a few minutes, a brief connection to the life in the farmhouse before heading back to their own duties. This midday respite is rarely long, perhaps half an hour, maybe an hour at most, just enough time to eat, rest your animals, and let your body recover slightly before plunging back into the demanding labor. There's a constant pressure, an awareness of the finite hours of daylight and the endless tasks that need completing before nightfall. The sun doesn't wait for you, and neither does the growing season. The fields won't plow themselves, and the crops won't plant themselves. Once replenished, you hitch the animals back to the plow. The first few passes after the break are the hardest. Your muscles, having cooled, protest the renewed exertion, and you feel every ache and strain anew. But gradually, the rhythm returns, and you once again become absorbed in the relentless task. The sun continues its journey across the sky, marking the passage of time with the length of your shadow. The work of plowing isn't just about preparing the soil. It's about breaking new ground, literally and figuratively. For many farmers in the 19th century, especially those pushing westward, they were often transforming virgin prairie or dense woodland into productive farmland. This involved not just plowing, but clearing rocks, felling trees, and removing stumps, a Herculean effort that often took years to accomplish. Imagine trying to plow a field dotted with tree stumps. It sounds like a comedy sketch, but it was daily reality. So, while you're focused on the turn of the furrow, part of your mind is also processing the larger, longer-term project of transforming your land. The concept of free time for a farmer in this era is almost non-existent. Evenings are for repairs, planning, community gatherings rarely, or just basic household maintenance. Sundays might offer a reprieve for church and rest, but even then, essential chores like milking or feeding animals don't stop. Your life is dictated by the seasons, the sun, and the pressing demands of survival. There's no separation between work and life. They are intrinsically woven together into a single, demanding tapestry. As the afternoon progresses, you begin to see the completion of your plowing task for that specific field or section. The sense of accomplishment, though fleeting, is profound. To see the entire field transformed from an overgrown patch to neat, dark furrows, ready for the seeds, is a powerful affirmation of your effort. Your body might be screaming in protest, but your spirit feels a quiet satisfaction. This feeling, this connection to the land and the fruits of your labor, is what keeps you going day after grueling day. You unhitch the animals for the final time, leading them back to the barn for a well-deserved rest and feed. Their flanks are heaving, their heads bowed with exhaustion, mirroring your own fatigue. You might give them an extra scoop of grain, a small reward for their partnership. Then you head back to the farmhouse, your boots heavy with mud, your body radiating a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that only intense physical labor can produce. The scent of freshly turned earth still clings to your clothes, a constant reminder of the monumental task you've just completed. The evening chores await, but for a brief moment, as you walk across the fields, bathed in the soft glow of the late afternoon sun, there's a sense of quiet triumph. You've conquered another piece of the earth, preparing it to feed your family. And in doing so, you've ensured another day of survival. With the back-breaking task of plowing the field behind you, your thoughts now turn to the next crucial step in the cycle of sustenance, planting the seeds. This isn't a quick job with a fancy modern planter that covers acres in hours. Oh no. This is a meticulous, often hand-driven process, where every seed represents a tiny spark of hope, a potential meal for your family. The future literally hinges on the care you put into these next few hours or days. You've returned from the field, your body protesting every movement, but the urgency of the task ahead propels you forward. Perhaps you grab a quick drink of water, or your wife might press a piece of bread into your hand, a small, immediate refuel. There's no dawdling. The prepared soil, dark and rich, lies waiting, a blank canvas for the next phase of your agricultural artistry. Depending on the crop, the method of planting varies. For corn, a staple in the 19th century American diet, you might use a hand planter, a surprisingly ingenious, if still physically demanding, tool. This would typically be a long wooden stick with a metal point at the bottom and a small hopper at the top to hold the seeds. You walk down the freshly plowed furrows, plunging the planter into the earth at regular intervals. With a quick flick of a lever, a few kernels of corn drop into the prepared hole. Then you move on, repeating the motion hundreds, maybe thousands of times across the field. Each rhythmic thunk of the planter as it penetrates the soil is a tiny prayer for germination. Your back aches from bending, your arms tire from the repetitive motion, but you push through it for smaller seeds like wheat, oats, or barley. The method might be even more direct, broadcasting by hand. Imagine walking across the field with a large canvas bag slung over your shoulder, filled with precious seeds. With a broad, sweeping motion of your arm, you scatter the seeds evenly across the tilled earth. This requires immense skill and an experienced eye to ensure even coverage. Too thick in one spot, and the plants will choke each other out. Too sparse in another, and you waste valuable land. It's a graceful, almost dance-like movement, repeated countless times, your body moving with a steady, practiced rhythm. The seeds, tiny golden or brown specks, fly from your hand, disappearing into the dark earth, entrusted to the soil's embrace. You're thinking about the proper spacing, the ideal depth, the perfect amount of seed. It's a calculation born of years of trial and error, passed down through generations. After broadcasting, you'd often follow up with a harrow, a simpler implement than a plow, often just a wooden frame with teeth or spikes dragged across the field. This helps to lightly cover the scattered seeds with a thin layer of soil, protecting them from birds and ensuring proper contact with the earth for germination. Pulling the harrow can be less strenuous than plowing, but it's still a slow, deliberate process, ensuring even coverage without burying the seeds too deeply as you work. Your mind is a constant whirl of observations. You're scanning the sky for any sign of rain too much, and the seeds could wash away. Too little, and they might not germinate. You feel the texture of the soil beneath your boots. Is it too dry, too wet, just right? You look for signs of pests, a telltale trail of an insect, a suspicious disturbance in the freshly turned earth. Every detail matters. Every nuance of nature's delicate balance can impact your harvest. There's a profound sense of hope that accompanies planting. You're literally putting your future into the ground, hoping that nature, combined with your tireless effort, will provide. You imagine the tiny sprouts pushing through the soil in a few weeks, the green shoots gradually transforming into a vibrant field of sustenance. This anticipation is a powerful motivator, pushing you through the physical discomfort. It's a bit like buying a lottery ticket, except your odds are significantly better, and the prize is survival, not just riches. A mainstream historical fact is that crop rotation was already a well-understood, though not universally practiced, concept among 19th century farmers. They knew that planting the same crop year after year in the same field would deplete the soil of vital nutrients. So, you might be planting corn in a field that grew wheat last year, or perhaps leaving a field fallow unplanted for a season, to allow the soil to recover its fertility. This foresight, a primitive form of agricultural science, was crucial for long-term sustainability. A quirky tidbit: some farmers would use special planting songs or rhythmic chants while hand planting, not just to pass the time, but to maintain a consistent pace and spacing for their seeds. Imagine a group of farmers, their voices rising and falling in unison with the rhythmic thunk of their planters, a silent, almost forgotten symphony of labor. Historians still argue whether these oral traditions were primarily functional tools for efficiency or more social rituals to alleviate the monotony of the work. For you, perhaps it's just a quiet hum, or the internal rhythm of your breath that guides your motions. The sheer scale of the planting operation is daunting. An acre, roughly the size of a football field, without the end zones, might take you hours, even a full day, to plant by hand or with rudimentary tools. And you likely have multiple acres, perhaps dozens, to prepare and sow. So, planting isn't a one-day event. It stretches over weeks, sometimes a month or more, depending on the variety of crops you're cultivating and the fickle nature of the spring weather. You might plant corn one week, then switch to beans, then potatoes, staggering the plantings. To manage your workload and spread out the harvest, your children, if old enough, are often pressed into service during planting season. Younger ones might follow you, dropping seeds into the holes you've made with the planter, or carrying small bags of seeds. Older children might be responsible for harrowing or for preparing additional furrows. This is a family enterprise. Truly, there's no minimum wage, no child labor laws. There's only the collective effort needed to survive. They learned the trade from a tender age, their small hands becoming accustomed to the feel of the earth, their bodies developing the endurance required for farm life. It's a harsh education, but a necessary one, as the sun begins its slow descent, painting the western sky in hues of orange and purple. You finally reach the end of a section, or perhaps finish planting an entire field. The ground, which hours ago was just barren soil, is now pregnant with the promise of life. Thousands of tiny seeds nestled safely beneath its surface. You straighten up, stretching your aching back, feeling the stiff muscles protest. Your hands are gritty with dirt, perhaps even blistered despite the calluses. You brush off the excess soil, but the scent of the earth will cling to you until you finally wash before supper. There's a quiet sense of accomplishment, a deep satisfaction that comes from seeing the tangible results of your labor. You haven't just moved dirt around, you've actively participated in the miracle of creation, laying the groundwork for the food that will sustain your family through the coming year. This feeling, a blend of exhaustion and profound fulfillment, is a powerful antidote to the relentless grind. You cast one last look over the newly planted field, a silent benediction, a hopeful prayer for good weather and a bountiful harvest. The work isn't over, not by a long shot. But this crucial phase is complete. As you trudge back towards the farmhouse, the sounds of the farm begin to shift. The evening chorus of crickets begins to rise, punctuated by the croaking of frogs from a nearby pond. The faint scent of wood smoke from your chimney beckons, promising warmth and the anticipation of a hard-earned meal. Your body aches, every joint and muscle protesting the day's relentless exertion, but your mind, despite the fatigue, is already planning for tomorrow. What crops will you tend to next? What repairs are pressing? The farmer's work is never truly done. It simply shifts with the sun and the seasons. And as you step through the door of your humble home, you carry with you not just the dirt of the fields, but the quiet satisfaction of having sown the seeds of your family's future. The sun now hangs high in the sky, a fiery orb relentlessly beating down on the fields you've toiled over since before dawn. Your stomach, having emptied the meager breakfast hours ago, grumbles in protest, a constant reminder of the energy you're expending. It's well past what modern folks would call lunchtime, But for a 19th century farmer, the midday meal, often the largest of the day, is a vital refueling stop, a chance to gather strength for the long afternoon still. Stretching ahead, you make your way back to the farmhouse, your gait heavy, each step a conscious effort. The path, familiar as the back of your hand, seems longer today. Your clothes are streaked with mud and dust, your boots caked with the rich earth you've been turning and planting. The scent of wood smoke mingling with the cooking aromas drifting from the kitchen is a welcome beacon pulling you towards home as you approach. You might see children playing in the yard, perhaps chasing chickens or rolling a hoop with a stick. Their carefree energy is a stark contrast to your bone-deep weariness, a fleeting reminder of the innocence you once possessed before the relentless demands of farm life claimed you. You greet them with a tired nod, maybe a brief, affectionate pat on the head, but there's no time for extended play. Their presence, however, adds a warmth to the scene, a sense of family that underpins all your labor. Stepping into the kitchen, the warmth from the roaring hearth is immediate and comforting. It's a sensory balm after hours in the sun and wind. The air is thick with the inviting aromas of simmering stew, baking bread, and perhaps boiling vegetables from the garden. Your wife and older daughters, having been hard at work themselves with their household chores, are likely putting the finishing touches on the meal. The kitchen is the undisputed heart of the home, a bustling hub of activity where food is prepared, clothes are mended, and the family gathers. The midday meal, often called dinner in this era, is not the light sandwich and salad affair you might be used to. This is a substantial feast designed to replenish the immense calories burned by relentless physical labor. The main dish is often a hearty stew or soup, simmering slowly for hours, utilizing whatever meat is available. Perhaps salt pork, a tough old hen, or even game if you or a neighbor had been successful hunting. It would be laden with root vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and onions, all grown on your own land. A large loaf of freshly baked bread, often made from wheat or cornmeal you milled yourself, would be on the table, along with a generous slab of butter churned from your own cow's milk. There might also be a bowl of boiled greens from the garden, or perhaps some pickled vegetables from last year's harvest, providing a crucial burst of vitamins. Water is the primary beverage, though sometimes there might be milk or a weak homebrewed beer or cider, safer to drink than untreated well water. No sugary sodas, no fizzy drinks, just pure, unadulterated sustenance that the family gathers around. The table, often crowded, a silent understanding passing between you all. You wash your hands quickly in a basin, scrubbing away the grime of the fields. There's little fanfare, no elaborate place settings. Each person takes their portion, often using a communal serving spoon, and eats with a quiet efficiency. Conversation is usually practical and brief. Discussions about the day's progress, plans for the afternoon, or observations about the weather. This isn't the time for idle chatter. It's a time for refuel and brief respite. You eat with a deep appreciation. For every bite, every mouthful is a direct result of your own sweat and toil and the diligent work of your family. There's no fast food delivery, no grocery store aisles overflowing with pre-packaged meals. This food represents survival, and that understanding lends a profound significance to each bite. You might scoop up the last bit of gravy with a piece of bread, ensuring no caloric potential is wasted. It's a powerful lesson in self-sufficiency and the value of every resource. Nstream. Historical fact. The widespread practice of dinner at midday was largely dictated by the sun and the demands of farm labor. It was far more practical to have the largest, most calorically dense meal when the sun was highest, allowing farmers to digest and regain energy for the afternoon's work, rather than waiting until sundown when fatigue had already set in. Eating a massive meal just before bed would have been inefficient and uncomfortable. A quirky tidbit that often surprises people is that forks were not as universally common as they are today. Many farm families primarily used spoons and knives, or even just their hands, to eat. The fork, while present, gained widespread acceptance gradually through the 19th century, particularly in rural areas. Historians still argue whether the slow adoption of the fork in some regions was due to cultural preference, economic limitations, or simply a reflection of the types of foods commonly eaten, stews and porridges, being easily eaten with a spoon. Imagine eating your entire meal with just a spoon and knife. It adds a certain rustic charm, doesn't it? As you eat, you might observe your children already growing taller, their appetites increasing with each passing season. You see reflections of yourself in their determined faces, the future of the farm flickering in their eyes. They are learning, absorbing the rhythms of this life, preparing for the day when they too will take on the immense responsibilities of adulthood on the land. There's a continuity to this life, a generational flow that transcends the individual. The meal doesn't last long, perhaps 30 to 45 minutes at most. There's no lounging, no lingering over coffee and dessert. As soon as the plates are cleared, the transition back to work begins. The children might be sent off to their afternoon chores, perhaps tending to the garden, collecting eggs, or helping their mother with spinning wool or mending clothes. Your wife and daughters immediately begin the arduous task of washing dishes, preparing for the evening meal, or continuing with the myriad household duties that never seem to end. For you, it's a quick walk back to the fields. The brief rest has offered some physical reprieve, but the muscles remember their earlier protest, and the first few steps are stiff. The sun, though past its zenith, still shines with considerable intensity. The afternoon work awaits, demanding the same relentless effort as the morning. This short break is crucial, however. It's not just about food. It's about a mental reset, a moment to recenter before plunging back into the physical demands of farming. It's a brief connection with your family, a reminder of why you labor so tirelessly. The children's laughter, the quiet strength of your wife, the simple warmth of the kitchen. These are the anchors in a life defined by hard work and uncertainty. As you step back out into the sun-drenched fields, the world seems to stretch out before you, an endless expanse of tasks, the newly plowed furrows or the freshly planted soil, which earlier filled you with a sense of accomplishment, now simply represent the next phase of work. You might pick up your hoe if you're moving on to cultivation, or perhaps return to planting a different section. The tools feel heavy in your hands, but the memory of the meal, the warmth of the fire, and the faces of your family provide a subtle, steadying force, the rhythm of the farm, which briefly softened during the midday meal, now picks up its relentless tempo once more. The sounds of the fields return, the buzzing of insects, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the distant lowing of cattle. You settle back into the solitary dance of man and earth, your movements efficient, practiced, each motion aimed at coaxing sustenance from the land. The sun will continue its slow descent, pulling you towards evening chores, but for now, the work under its bright gaze continues, unwavering. With the midday meal a distant, warming memory, the afternoon sun now beats down with an almost oppressive intensity. There's no escaping its gaze in the open fields, no air-conditioned tractor cab to offer respite. You are entirely at the mercy of the elements, a tiny figure under a vast, unyielding sky. The muscles that briefly relaxed during your meal now protest anew as you resume your labor. Your body, despite the food, still feels heavy, but your will pushes it onward. If you were plowing or planting in the morning, the afternoon might see you shifting to a different crop or a different phase of work. Perhaps you're now engaged in cultivation, a crucial task of tending to the nascent crops. This involves using a hoe or a specialized cultivator pulled by a horse or mule to break up the soil between rows of young plants. The goal, to aerate the soil, allow moisture to penetrate, and, most importantly, to suppress weeds. Weeds are the farmer's nemesis, relentless competitors for water, nutrients, and sunlight, capable of strangling a promising crop before it ever reaches maturity. Armed with a long-handled hoe, you walk slowly, methodically, down each row, swinging the blade with a practiced motion. The dull thud as the hoe bites into the earth, the soft swish, its back-breaking work, requiring constant bending and precise movements to avoid damaging the delicate crop plants. Your eyes are constantly scanning the ground, distinguishing between desirable plants and unwanted intruders. Every weed removed is a small victory, a protective act for the future harvest. Your back aches from the constant stooping. Your arms burn from the repetitive swings of the hoe, and your hands, already toughened, grow even more calloused. Sweat trickles down your temples, blurring your vision, and you wipe it away with a dusty sleeve. The sun seems to magnify the effort, each hour feeling longer than the last. You might pause to stretch, rolling your shoulders, letting out a groan of protest, before resuming the methodical march down the seemingly endless rows. If you're working with a horse-drawn cultivator, the labor is slightly less direct, but still demands intense focus. You guide the animal and the implement, ensuring the cultivator blades run just close enough to the crop to disturb the weeds without uprooting the fragile plants themselves. It's a delicate dance, a constant adjustment of pace and direction. The horse, like you, is working hard, its breath coming in rhythmic snorts, its tail occasionally swishing at the persistent flies. The silence of the fields, broken only by the sounds of your labor and the natural world, can be profound. There's no radio, no podcasts, no distant hum of traffic. Your thoughts are your only companions. You might mentally calculate how many more rows before you reach the end of the field or ponder the subtle changes in the weather. You might reflect on the year's planting, recalling triumphs and failures from past seasons. Every decision you make, every action you take, is a culmination of generations of accumulated wisdom and harsh experience, a mainstream historical fact. The average lifespan of a 19th century American farmer was significantly shorter than today, partly due to the immense physical strain and lack of proper medical care for injuries sustained during such rigorous labor. Accidents with tools or animals were common, and infection was always a significant risk. A quirky tidbit: some farmers would place small, flat stones, or even a piece of leather, inside their boots to provide extra arch support, a very early form of orthotics, though likely crude and uncomfortable. Historians still argue whether such self-devised solutions offered genuine physical benefit or were merely psychological coping mechanisms for the relentless discomfort. You, however, would trade your best cow for a pair of modern running shoes right about now. The monotony of the work is broken only by the slight variations in the soil, the emergence of a particularly stubborn clump of weeds, or the occasional buzz of a bee passing by. You notice the tiny details: a ladybug crawling on a leaf, the way the light catches the dew still clinging to a shaded blade of grass, a rabbit darting for cover in the distant undergrowth. These small observations are your connection to the larger world, your brief moments of natural beauty amidst the toil. As the afternoon wears on, the sun begins its slow descent towards the western horizon, casting longer shadows across the fields. The air, while still warm, loses some of its midday intensity. There's a subtle shift in the light, a softening that signals the approach of evening. Your body is screaming for rest, every muscle aching, every joint protesting. But you push on, driven by the knowledge that every hour of daylight is precious. Every task completed now means less burden tomorrow. You are acutely aware of the passage of time, not by clocks or schedules, but by the angle of the sun and the length of the shadows. The dwindling light is a silent, undeniable deadline. You squeeze out every last minute of productive work before the light makes it impossible to see clearly enough to distinguish weeds from crops, or to safely handle your tools and animals. Perhaps your focus for the afternoon also involved repairing fences. Fences were vital for keeping livestock contained and protecting crops from wandering animals. This involved hauling heavy fence posts, stretching taut wires or rails, and hammering nails with powerful, precise blows. A broken fence could lead to a lost cow or a trampled crop, a significant financial setback. This type of work is physically demanding in a different way than cultivation, requiring brute strength and careful construction. Or maybe you were out in the pasture, tending to the livestock that wasn't in the barn. This might involve moving sheep to a new grazing area, checking on a pregnant sow, or inspecting the health of the calves. While seemingly less strenuous than field work, it still requires constant walking, observation, and quick reactions. An escaped animal or a sick one could be disastrous. The well-being of your animals is directly tied to the well-being of your family. They are your living assets, your source of milk, meat, wool, and power. You know each animal by sight, often by name, understanding their temperament and needs. As the shadows lengthen and the golden hour begins to bathe the landscape in a soft, warm light, you decide it's time to call it a day for the major fieldwork. You bring your tools back to the shed, carefully cleaning them of dirt and debris. A sharp hoe lasts longer. A clean plow works better. This meticulous care of your tools is essential. They are expensive, hard to replace, and absolutely critical. to your livelihood. You unhitch your animal from the cultivator or lead them back from the pasture, guiding them towards the barn. They, too, are tired, their steps perhaps a little slower, their heads drooping slightly. You give them a final pat, a word of thanks, before leading them into their stalls. Providing them with fresh hay and water is a final act of care, ensuring they are comfortable and ready for another day of labor tomorrow. As you walk back towards the farmhouse, the air begins to cool, carrying the familiar scent of wood smoke and evening dew. The sounds of the farm animals settling down for the night replace the earlier sounds of labor. The rhythmic clang of the cowbell, the contented grunts of the pigs, the last clucking of the chickens. These are the gentle lullabies of the farm. At dusk, your body aches with a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. But there's also a quiet satisfaction that comes with having pushed yourself to the limit. You've cultivated the crops, protected them from weeds, ensuring another day of progress towards the harvest. You step into the fading light, leaving the expansive fields behind you, a testament to your unyielding will and the sheer, raw power of human effort in the face of nature's demands. The work in the fields may be done for now, but the day's tasks are far from over. Evening chores await. As the last vestiges of daylight fade, painting the western sky in bruised purples and fading oranges, your attention shifts from the sprawling fields to the more immediate needs of your barn and its inhabitants. The evening animal husbandry isn't just a chore. It's a vital component of your daily survival, a final act of care and vigilance before the farm settles into its nighttime quiet. You head back to the barn, the familiar scent of hay, manure, and warm animal bodies, a comforting presence in the cooling air. The first order of business is often the evening milking. You settle onto that low stool once more, the practiced rhythm of your hands coaxing the warm, frothy milk into the pail. This milk, fresh from the cow, is destined for the evening meal, or for churning into butter, or perhaps for making cheese tomorrow. Every stream of milk represents sustenance, a direct contribution to your family's well-being. You might hum a quiet tune or simply focus on the methodical task, listening to the soft swoosh, swoosh, and the contented chewing of the cows. They are calmer now, having spent the day grazing, their bodies heavy with milk. After milking, you ensure all the animals have fresh water. This isn't as simple as turning a tap. It means hauling heavy buckets from the well, perhaps multiple trips, to fill the troughs in the barn and the outdoor pens. Your muscles, already screaming from the day's fieldwork, protest with every pull of the bucket from the well and every step back to the barn. But there's no shortcuts here. Hydration is as vital for your animals as it is for you. Then comes the final feed of the day. You fork down more hay for the cows and horses, ensuring their mangers are full for the long night ahead. For the pigs, you carry out another bucket of slop, often a mix of leftover kitchen scraps and grain. Their eager grunts and squeals are a familiar welcome, a noisy appreciation for their evening meal. You check on the chickens one last time, making sure their coop is secure against nocturnal predators like foxes or raccoons. Gathering any last-minute eggs is also part of this routine, bringing in every last bit of potential income or food source. As you move among the animals, you conduct a final, silent inspection. You check for any injuries they might have sustained during the day, any signs of lameness, or any hint of illness. A subtle cough, a drooping ear, a patch of ruffled fur. These small indicators can mean the difference between a healthy animal and a costly loss. You run your hands over their flanks, feeling their warmth, checking for any unusual lumps or tenderness. This hands-on connection allows you to build a deep understanding of your herd, a bond that goes beyond mere ownership. They are your living capital, your partners in a demanding existence. This close observation of animal health was a critical skill for any farmer. Long before veterinary medicine became widely accessible, a mainstream historical fact, hog butchering was a major annual event on most 19th century farms, typically occurring in late autumn or early winter when the weather was cold enough to preserve the meat. This wasn't just a day's work. It was often a community event, with neighbors helping each other process the animals into bacon, ham, and sausage, as well as render lard for cooking and soap. A quirky tidbit: some farmers would give their pigs a daily mud bath or ensure access to a wallow, not just for cooling, but because the mud acted as a natural bug repellent and skin conditioner. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of certain livestock diseases in the 19th century was more attributable to lack of sanitation or to the nutritional deficiencies of their feed. You, meanwhile, are just trying to keep your pigs from escaping their pen again for the third time this week, beyond feeding and checking. There are smaller, but equally important, tasks that might need doing. Perhaps a broken latch on a stall door needs a quick repair, or a piece of harness leather has frayed and requires immediate attention to avoid a breakdown tomorrow. You carry a few basic tools with you: a hammer, some nails, a length of rope, ready for any minor emergency. These small fixes prevent larger problems down the line. A constant game of whack-a-mole against the inevitable wear and tear of farm life. The sounds of the barn at dusk are unique: the rustling of hay, the soft chewing of cud, the occasional snort or whinny from a horse, the quiet clucking of a settling hen. These are the sounds of life, of sustenance, a comforting backdrop to your final evening duties. The air is warm and heavy, a stark contrast to the crisp air outside, providing a welcome respite from the evening chill that is starting to set in. You take a moment to breathe it in, the earthy, animalistic scent, a reminder of your place in this world. As you finish your tasks in the barn, you might notice the first stars beginning to prick through the deepening blue of the sky. The moon, perhaps a sliver or a full, luminous orb, begins to cast its pale light over the slumbering fields. There's a profound sense of quiet that descends upon the farm as darkness fully embraces the land. The busy activity of the day gives way to a stillness broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant call of a night bird before heading back to the house. You make a final check of the general perimeter. Are the gates securely latched? Are there any signs of nocturnal animals attempting to breach the chicken coop? This vigilance is constant. Your farm is an island in a wilder world, and protecting your assets from predators, both animal and human, is a continuous responsibility. You might cast a glance at the fields you toiled in all day, seeing them now as dark, silent expanses, holding the promise of the next harvest within their depths. The walk back to the farmhouse. in the deepening twilight feels different from your morning trek. The air is cooler, carrying the scent of dew and distant wood smoke. Your body is heavy with fatigue, a deep, pervasive weariness that has settled into your bones. But there's also a sense of closure, of having completed another full cycle of effort. The sun has risen and set, and you have, through sheer will and muscle, coaxed another day's worth of productivity from the land. As you near the house, you might see the warm glow of lamplight spilling from the windows, a welcoming beacon in the darkness. The sounds of your family, perhaps your wife humming a tune, children's voices murmuring, filter out, drawing you home. This sense of returning to the warmth and safety of the hearth after a day of solitary, grueling labor is a powerful, emotional anchor. You step inside, shedding your heavy boots and perhaps your outermost mud-splattered coat. The kitchen is still the heart of the home, now transformed into a cozy haven. Your wife and children are likely engaged in their own evening household duties, preparing the lighter evening meal, often called supper, distinct from the midday dinner, or working on crafts like spinning, mending, or weaving. The transition from outdoor labor to indoor domesticity is stark. The heavy physical exertion gives way to tasks that are still demanding, but of a different nature. Your hands, though sore and stiff, are now ready for the more delicate work required around the house, or simply for holding a warm cup of whatever hot beverage is available. The demands of animal husbandry might be done for the day, but the farm never truly sleeps, and neither do its occupants. Every action, every decision, from dawn to dusk, is woven into the intricate tapestry of survival. Having completed the essential outdoor chores and animal care, you step into the warmth of the farmhouse, leaving the cool, darkening embrace of the evening behind. The contrast is immediate. The quiet rustling of hay and distant animal sounds are replaced by the soft glow of lamplight. This transition marks a shift from the brute force of field labor to the intricate, equally vital work of the household, much of it carried out by the women and children. Your wife and older daughters are likely deep into their evening routines. The kitchen, still the warmest room in the house thanks to the hearth, might be filled with the scent of a simple supper being prepared. Unlike the substantial midday dinner, the evening meal is often lighter, perhaps leftovers from earlier, or a simple porridge, bread and cheese. But before that, other tasks demand attention, tasks that ensure the comfort and continued functioning of the household. One of the most constant and critical duties is textile production. Imagine, if you will, the gentle worry sound of a spinning wheel, a ubiquitous presence in most farmhouses. Your wife or an older daughter might be seated, deftly transforming raw wool shorn from your own sheep, or cotton grown in a small patch into usable thread. Her fingers work with practiced speed, guiding the fibers as the wheel spins, drawing them out into a fine, consistent strand. This thread will then be painstakingly woven on a loom into fabric for clothes, blankets, and linens. This isn't just a hobby. It's a fundamental necessity. Without homegrown textiles, every stitch of clothing, every blanket would have to be purchased, an astronomical expense for a farm family with little cash income beside the spinning. Another essential craft might be underway, mending and sewing. Clothes in the 19th century were precious, made to last. Tears were patched, worn-out seams reinforced, and garments often repurposed as children grew or as parts wore thin. Your wife might sit by the lamplight, a needle flashing in her hand, meticulously repairing a worn shirt or stitching a new button onto a coat. This quiet act of preservation extends the life of every piece of fabric, stretching your limited resources as far as possible. Imagine the sheer quantity of mending needed for a family of hardworking farmers, constantly tearing and dirtying their clothes. Beyond textiles, there's the relentless task of food preservation. While some of this happens during specific seasons, canning in summer, butchering in autumn, evening hours are often used for smaller, ongoing preservation efforts. Perhaps your wife is skimming cream from the day's milk to prepare for butter, churning tomorrow, or turning yesterday's butter into cheese, drying herbs gathered from the garden, preparing vegetables for pickling, or even smoking small pieces of meat over the dying embers of the fire. These are all meticulous, time-consuming processes that secure your food supply for the leaner months. The kitchen, even after the supper preparations, remains a hub of activity. Soap making was another common household duty, typically done less frequently, but requiring significant effort. Using rendered animal fat, often from your own pigs, and lye derived from wood ash. A quirky tidbit being that pioneers often made lye by dripping water through a barrel of ash, which would then be boiled with fat. Your wife would boil and stir this pungent concoction until it saponified into rough, utilitarian bars. This homemade soap was essential for washing clothes, cleaning the house, and personal hygiene. Historians still argue whether the perceived harshness of homemade lye soap contributed more to skin ailments or prevented more widespread disease than its absence would have. You, however, just know it gets the grime off after a day in the fields. Children, even young ones, are not idle. They too have their evening duties. Younger children might be responsible for gathering firewood for the morning fire, or bringing in water from the well for the night's washing. Older children might assist with preparing vegetables for supper, grinding corn, polishing shoes, or preparing lanterns for the next day's early start. Learning these tasks from a young age is part of their informal education, preparing them for their future roles on the farm. There's no concept of being bored or simply entertaining oneself. Every moment is an opportunity for productive contribution. As you sit by the fire, perhaps cleaning your own tools or sharpening a knife, you observe these domestic industries. You might engage in quiet conversation with your wife, discussing the day's events, the health of a child, or plans for tomorrow. This time by the fire, though still productive, offers a different kind of respite from the strenuous outdoor work. It's a chance for mental connection, for planning, and for the quiet companionship of family. The light source itself is a precious commodity. Tallow candles or oil lamps, fueled by whale oil or rendered animal fat, provide a flickering, dim illumination, far from the bright electric lights we take for granted. You gather close to the light, conserving fuel and making the most of the limited visibility. Reading, if you are literate, might be limited to a worn Bible or an almanac, cherished sources of knowledge and spiritual comfort. Leisure activities are simple and often communal. Storytelling, singing, perhaps playing a simple game with the children, or just quiet conversation. There's a deep satisfaction in the self-sufficiency of the farm. Almost everything you need, clothing, fuel, shelter is produced through your own labor and ingenuity. This independence is a point of pride, but it also comes with immense responsibility. There's no safety net, no welfare system. A failed harvest, a sick animal, a sudden fire, any of these could spell disaster for your family. This constant awareness of vulnerability is a backdrop to every daily task. As the evening draws to a close, the pace in the farmhouse slows further. The supper, though simple, is eaten with gratitude. The dishes are washed, the fire banked for the night, leaving a bed of glowing embers that will hopefully last until morning. Children are put to bed, their tired bodies collapsing onto their straw mattresses. The quiet rhythm of breathing fills the shared sleeping spaces. Your wife might prepare a warm drink, perhaps an herbal tea or just hot water, a final soothing ritual before bed. There's often a shared moment of quiet reflection, a silent acknowledgement of the day's labors and the challenges still ahead. This enduring partnership, forged in shared hardship and mutual reliance, is the bedrock of farm life, the household. Duties and crafts, though perhaps less visibly dramatic than plowing a field, are just as fundamental to the farm's survival. They are the unseen threads that weave together the fabric of daily life, ensuring warmth, sustenance, and comfort for the family. Without the tireless efforts of the women and children within the home, the work in the fields would be for naught. As you finally prepare for sleep, the lingering scent of wood smoke and freshly spun wool might fill your nostrils, a comforting reminder of a day well spent, both outside and within the walls of your humble, hard-working home. The house settles around you, a testament to resilience, resourcefulness, and the quiet dignity of a life lived by the rhythms of the earth. The relentless rhythm of farm life, while demanding, wasn't entirely devoid of human connection beyond the immediate family. Even for a 19th century American farmer, isolated as you might feel on your plot of land, there were moments, however brief, for community and socializing. These interactions were vital, not just for emotional well-being, but for practical survival, weaving a crucial social fabric into the tapestry of rural existence. Imagine, for instance, a rare trip to the nearest town or village. This wasn't a casual outing, it was an event, a major undertaking that might only happen once every few weeks, or even months, depending on your farm's remoteness. The journey itself could be arduous, a bumpy ride in a horse-drawn wagon over unpaved, often rutted roads. The dust would cling to your clothes in summer, the mud would slow your progress in spring, and the snow could make it treacherous in winter. This trip was primarily for necessity, to sell surplus produce at the market, to purchase essential supplies like salt, coffee, sugar, or tools not produced on the farm, and perhaps to visit the general store, a treasure trove of goods you couldn't make yourself. But the town trip was also a social lifeline. It was a chance to see familiar faces, to exchange news and gossip. You might linger by the general store, swapping stories with other farmers who had also made the journey. How's your corn looking this year? Heard old man Peterson's cow finally calved. These conversations weren't just small talk. They were vital intelligence, a way to gauge the success of the season, to learn about new farming techniques, or to hear about events in the wider world. The general store was often more than just a shop. It was the community's information hub, a place where letters were left and picked up, and where notices of town meetings or upcoming events were posted. You might even catch a glimpse of the latest newspaper if one circulated in your area, offering a fleeting connection to national news. The church also served as a major social gathering point, especially on Sundays. While the primary purpose was spiritual, the weekly service brought families together from miles around. After the sermon, the churchyard would transform into a lively scene of conversation, children playing and women exchanging recipes or discussing family matters. For many, this was the most consistent and regular opportunity for social interaction outside of their immediate family. It reinforced community bonds and shared values, providing a sense of collective identity in an otherwise isolated existence. Historians still argue whether the strong communal aspect of rural churches in the 19th century was primarily driven by religious fervor or by the sheer necessity for social connection in geographically dispersed populations beyond formal gatherings. Neighborly assistance was an unwritten rule, a crucial aspect of rural survival. If a barn needed raising, a field needed clearing, or a large harvest had to be brought in quickly before a storm, neighbors would often band together in a barn, raising or harvest bee. These were communal work parties where dozens of hands would come together to accomplish a task far too large for a single family. They were intense periods of labor, but also highly social events, complete with shared meals, laughter, and a strong sense of camaraderie. These were practical necessities, yes, but they also cemented the bonds of mutual reliance, ensuring that when your time of need came, you too would have help. A quirky tidbit: during these barn raisings, it was common for women to prepare massive feasts, sometimes even competing good-naturedly over who could provide the most bountiful spread. Imagine a potluck of epic proportions, designed to fuel muscle, not just satisfy taste buds. Children, too, found their social outlets. Beyond the immediate family, they would often play with cousins or the children of nearby neighbors. Simple games, exploring the woods, fishing in a nearby stream. Their play was often intertwined with the landscape and the rhythm of farm life, fostering a deep connection to their environment. These childhood friendships, often forged in shared chores and simple amusements, could last a lifetime. Evenings, while primarily for domestic duties, occasionally offered opportunities for quieter social interaction. A nearby neighbor might drop by for a visit, sharing a pipe by the fire, discussing crops, or simply enjoying the company. These informal visits were cherished, a break from the relentless routine, offering a chance to unwind and share burdens or joys. News traveled slowly in these rural communities, often by word of mouth, so these visits were crucial for staying informed about local events, births, deaths, or illnesses. Marriages, births, and deaths were significant community events, drawing people together in celebration or mourning. These rites of passage reinforced the communal ties, reminding everyone of their interconnectedness within the broader social structure. A young couple getting married wasn't just joining two individuals. It was often forging an alliance between two farm families with implications for labor, land, and resources. Despite these connections, life could still feel incredibly isolated. The distances between farms were often considerable, and the sheer demands of daily labor left little time or energy for extensive socializing. The winter months, especially, could bring profound isolation, with heavy snows making roads impassable, and trapping families in their homes for weeks or even months at a time. During these periods, the family unit became even more self-reliant, turning inward for companionship and sustenance. A mainstream historical fact, the growth of general stores and later catalog companies like Sears, Roebuck and Co., which started later in the century, profoundly changed the social and economic landscape of rural America, offering farmers access to goods they couldn't produce themselves, and gradually reducing their need for direct barter or purely local trade. Historians still argue whether the increased availability of manufactured goods from these catalogs strengthened or weakened local community ties, as farmers became less reliant on local artisans and exchanges. The community, for a farmer, was a living, breathing entity, not merely a collection of individuals. It was a network of mutual support, shared traditions, and collective resilience. It was the group that would help rebuild your barn after a fire, provide comfort during a family tragedy, or celebrate a bountiful harvest. While the image of the stoic, independent farmer is strong, the reality was that survival often depended on cooperation and the strong bonds of neighborliness. You understood that profoundly. Your world might be confined to your few acres, but your life was intertwined with those around you, forming a resilient human mosaic against the vastness of the American landscape. And as you put your tools away and watch the last embers in the hearth glow, you might reflect on the small yet profound value of a shared laugh or a helpful hand from a neighbor, knowing that in the quiet isolation of your farm, these connections were as vital as the food you grew. As the sun finally dips below the horizon, casting the world in shades of deep indigo and the last remnants of twilight, the rigorous demands of the day begin to give way to the final, precious hours before sleep. The evening meal, often called supper, is a quieter, less boisterous affair than the midday dinner, but no less essential for replenishing the energy expended throughout the long day. You finally shed the heavy, mud-caked boots by the door. The small act, a symbolic release from the ceaseless toil of the fields, stepping into the warm embrace of the kitchen, the soft glow of lamplight, perhaps supplemented by the flickering dance of flames from the banked fire in the hearth. The aromas of the simple meal mingle with the lingering scent of wood smoke, creating an atmosphere of rustic comfort. Your wife and older children have likely been preparing this meal while you tended to the evening animal chores. It's a testament to the seamless, often unspoken, division of labor that defines farm life. Supper is typically lighter than dinner, designed to be digestible before a night's rest, but still nourishing. It might consist of leftovers from the midday meal, perhaps a little more stew, or some bread and cheese. Often, it's a simple porridge made from cornmeal or oats, boiled with water or milk, and perhaps sweetened with a touch of molasses, if you're fortunate enough to have it. There might be some pickled vegetables from last year's harvest, providing a tangy counterpoint to the blandness of the grains. Dried or preserved fruits might make a rare appearance. Fresh meat is generally a luxury, unless a small animal has been caught or butchered that day. The family gathers around the table once more, but the urgency of the midday meal is replaced by a more subdued atmosphere. Conversations are often quieter, more reflective. You might discuss the events of the day, the progress of the crops, a new calf born, a broken tool that needs fixing. The children, their initial evening energy having waned, eat with less enthusiasm, their bodies already hinting at the fatigue that will soon claim them. This meal isn't just about physical sustenance. It's a crucial time for family connection and reflection. It's where stories are shared, where lessons are subtly imparted, and where the bonds of kinship are reinforced. You might ask your children about their chores, offering gentle guidance or praise. Your wife might recount the challenges of churning butter or the success of a new recipe. This communal experience, simple as it is the glue that holds the family unit together. A moment of shared humanity after a day of solitary struggles. A mainstream historical fact. Corn was an absolute staple of the 19th century American farmers' diet, especially in the Midwest and South, not just because it was easy to grow, but because it could be prepared in countless ways. Cornmeal for bread and porridge, hominy, grits, and feed for livestock. A quirky tidbit, some farm families would roast ears of corn directly in the embers of the fireplace for a quick, smoky snack. Historians still argue whether the reliance on a few staple crops, like corn and wheat, led to widespread nutritional deficiencies in certain regions, or simply reflected the most efficient use of available land and labor. You, however, are just grateful for whatever fills your belly after a long day. After the meal, the evening winds down further. There's no sprawling out on a sofa to watch television or scroll on a phone. Leisure is intertwined with utility. Your wife and daughters will immediately begin clearing the table and washing the dishes, perhaps using water heated earlier over the fire. This repetitive chore, done by hand, is a quiet ritual of cleanliness, preparing the kitchen for the next morning's demands. You might take this time to attend to any pressing repairs or preparations for the next day. Perhaps a leather harness needs mending, the stitches carefully reinforced by hand, or a tool head has come loose from its handle and needs to be firmly re-wedged. Maybe you spend time sharpening your axe or hoe, the rhythmic rasp of the whetstone, a familiar, soothing sound. A dull tool makes work harder and more dangerous, so this evening maintenance is essential. The tools are your livelihood, and you treat them with respect, cleaning them of dirt and rust, ensuring they are ready for the relentless demands of tomorrow. The children, too, have their final, quieter duties. They might help tidy the house, gather any stray items, or prepare their own simple clothes for the morning. They might bring in the last buckets of water from the well for the night's needs, or ensure the firebox has enough kindling for easy rekindling at dawn. These tasks are part of their gradual immersion into the responsibilities of adult farm life, learning the discipline and foresight required for survival. As the hour grows late, the only light comes from the dwindling fire and perhaps a single flickering oil lamp. Fuel is too precious to waste on unnecessary illumination. This forces an early bedtime, dictated by the natural rhythms of light and dark. There's no staying up late, no binge-watching your favorite shows. Sleep is a necessity, a non-negotiable requirement for physical recovery. You might sit by the hearth for a few final moments, watching the embers glow and listening to the soft murmur of the fire. This is a time for quiet contemplation, for reflecting on the day's successes and challenges. You might think about the newly planted seeds, sending a silent hope for their germination. You might ponder the health of your animals or the well-being of your family. The future, while always uncertain, is something you constantly plan for, constantly work towards. Before bed, there's often a final check of the house, ensuring the doors are latched, the windows secured against the cooling night air. You might prepare your clothes for the morning, laying them out to make the pre-dawn start a little less burdensome. The very act of preparing for sleep is efficient, geared towards maximizing rest and minimizing wasted time. The good nights are simple, often brief. Family members retreat to their shared sleeping spaces. Bedrooms in a 19th century farmhouse are rarely private in the modern sense. Siblings often share beds. Sometimes even parents and younger children share a room for warmth and closeness. The concept of personal space is a luxury that few can afford. You undress quickly, perhaps just down to your undergarments, as sleeping in layers can provide warmth. The straw mattress, while hard by modern standards, feels like a cloud after a day of such intense physical exertion. You crawl into bed, pulling the rough homespun blankets up to your chin. The cold, which might have seeped in earlier, is now held at bay by the warmth of your own body and the layers of bedding. The sounds of the house settle into a quiet rhythm of breathing, punctuated by the occasional creak of the old timbers. Your body aches, a symphony of protests from overworked muscles and weary bones. But the mind, though tired, often keeps replaying the day's tasks, planning for tomorrow's challenges. The simple, unadorned life of a 19th century farmer culminates in these quiet moments before sleep. It's a life defined by hard work, self-reliance, and an intimate connection to the land and its rhythms. There's no escape from the physical demands, but there's also a deep, almost spiritual satisfaction in knowing that you have, through your own strength and ingenuity, provided for your family. And as your eyes finally grow heavy, the last images of the day, the turned earth, the lowing cattle, the flickering lamplight, begin to blur, giving way to the sweet oblivion of sleep. You finally succumb to the profound exhaustion that has been building since before dawn. The moment your head hits that straw or cotton mattress, surrounded by the familiar sounds of a sleeping farmhouse, oblivion begins to claim you. There's no restless tossing and turning, no late night scrolling through hypothetical social media feeds, no anxious thoughts about tomorrow's emails. Your body demands rest, a deep, restorative sleep born of unrelenting physical labor as you drift. Your dreams, if they come, are not of fantastical adventures or exotic locales. They are often echoes of your waking life, a continuation of the patterns ingrained in your very being. You might dream of the feel of the plow handles in your hands, the rhythmic thud of the hoe striking earth, or the soothing swoosh of milk filling a pail. The sense of the farm might seep into your subconscious, the rich, loamy smell of freshly turned soil, the sweet dustiness of hay, the earthy aroma of your livestock. These aren't nightmares. They are simply the profound imprint of your reality, a reminder that even in sleep, the farm holds you in its grasp. The silence of the night, profound to modern ears, is broken only by the natural symphony of the rural world. Perhaps the distant hoot of an owl cuts through the stillness, or the soft chirping of crickets from outside your window. The wind might sigh through the eaves of the farmhouse, a gentle whisper against the sturdy timber walls. Inside, the subtle creaks and groans of the old house settling, the soft breathing of your sleeping family, and the occasional shift of an animal in the nearby barn are the only sounds that penetrate the deep quiet. There's no distant hum of traffic, no sirens wailing, no artificial glow of city lights. Just the vast, enveloping darkness and the ancient sounds of nature. Even in sleep, your senses remain subtly attuned to the rhythms of the farm. A sudden, sharp bark from the farm dog might briefly rouse you. A quick, almost instinctive check on your surroundings before drifting back to sleep. The deep, ingrained sense of responsibility for your land and your animals permeates even your subconscious. You are a sentinel even when your body is at rest. The quality of sleep for a 19th century farmer, while seemingly deep due to exhaustion, was likely impacted by various factors. The hard mattress, the lack of climate control, and the presence of numerous family members in close proximity meant that true, uninterrupted sleep, as we might define it, was a luxury. Yet, the sheer physical exertion ensured that when you did sleep, it was heavy and replenishing, a necessary mechanism for survival. A mainstream, historical fact often overlooked is the pervasive presence of vermin in 19th century farmhouses. Mice, rats, and insects were a constant battle, and their nightly rustlings and scurryings were simply part of the accepted reality. While disturbing to us, farmers learned to largely ignore these sounds, adapting to a living environment that was far less sanitized than our own. A quirky tidbit: some farm families would keep a cat not just for companionship, but primarily as a highly valued form of pest control, often boasting about their feline's mousing prowess. Historians still argue whether the widespread belief in folk remedies for sleep, like specific herbal teas, or even placing certain stones under the pillow, had more to do with their actual efficacy or simply the desperate need for any perceived comfort in a hard life. For you, the biggest sleep aid is simply the exhaustion of another day well spent. As the night progresses, you might feel the temperature drop, especially in winter. The heat from the banked fire slowly dissipates, and the chill begins to creep back into the house. You unconsciously pull the patchwork quilt tighter, seeking the warmth trapped within its layers. The early morning hours are often the coldest, and your body instinctively prepares for the pre-dawn bite. The brief period of true, unbroken sleep is precious, lasting perhaps only a few hours. Even before the first hint of dawn, your internal clock, honed by years of relentless routine, begins to stir you. It's not an abrupt awakening, but a gradual return to consciousness, a slow recognition that the world outside is beginning to stir, and with it the demands of a new day. You might hear the distant crow of a rooster, or the first insistent lowing of the cows in the barn, gentle harbingers of the approaching light. This pre-dawn awakening is a deep-seated reflex. There's no snooze button, no luxury of turning over. For just 5 more minutes, the animals are hungry, the chores await, and the sun will not wait for your leisurely awakening. You are part of an ancient, unbroken chain of life, dictated by the sun and the seasons. Your body knows its duty, even before your mind fully processes the thought as you slowly emerge from sleep. The first faint light of dawn might be just beginning to paint the eastern sky, a mere suggestion of the day to come. The air in the room is still cold, nipping at your exposed skin, but the warmth from under your blankets feels like a temporary luxury. You take a few deep breaths, trying to shake off the last vestiges of slumber, preparing your mind and body for the immediate physical demands that await. You reflect briefly on the profound contrast between your existence and that of the city. Dwellers, if you've ever had the chance to visit one of the burgeoning towns, they sleep longer, perhaps in softer beds, their nights undisturbed by the cries of hungry livestock or the constant vigilance against natural forces. But their food comes from an abstract source, not from the direct labor of their own hands. Their days are dictated by clocks and commerce, not the sun and the soil. You, on the other hand, are intimately connected to the earth, your very survival a direct result of your physical effort. There's a raw honesty to your life, a primal satisfaction that those in the burgeoning industrial towns might never truly know. This quiet transition from deep sleep to the cusp of a new day is a daily ritual. It's not a moment of dread, but one of acceptance. The cycle continues, and you are an integral part of it. The aches in your body are familiar companions, the chill in the air a well-known greeting. You swing your legs out of bed, feeling the cold floorboards beneath your feet, and begin the process of layering clothes against the morning chill. The scent of wood smoke, perhaps still lingering from last night's banked fire, offers a faint promise of warmth to come. As you prepare to face the new day, your mind is already ticking through the list of immediate tasks. The cows need milking, the pigs need feeding, the fire needs stoking. There's no procrastination, no hesitation. The demands of the farm are immediate, and so, with a deep breath and a quiet determination, you step out of your sleeping quarters, ready to meet the dawn and begin another relentless yet profoundly fulfilling day in the life of a 19th century American farmer. The cycle has begun anew. As you step out of the relative warmth of the farmhouse, the first blush of dawn paints the eastern sky, still largely dark but hinting at the sun's imminent arrival. The air is crisp, biting, perhaps even carrying the sharp scent of frost. In the cooler months, you are intimately aware that your life and the success of your farm is entirely dictated by the subtle and dramatic shifts of the seasons. There is no escaping their influence. Every task, every decision, every hope for the future is inextricably linked to the annual cycle of nature. Consider spring, the season that has just begun to unfold its promises. After the long, dormant winter, spring is a period of intense activity and renewed hope. You are driven by a fierce urgency to prepare the fields, the plowing, harrowing, and planting that have dominated your recent days. The soil must be worked when it's just right, not too wet from melting snow or spring rains, which would compact it, and not too dry, which would make it hard as rock. There's a narrow window of opportunity for each crop, and missing it could mean reduced yields or even total failure. The days lengthen, offering more precious hours of daylight, and you work from pre-dawn until dusk, pushing your body to its limits. In spring, the land comes alive. The once bare trees begin to bud, tiny green shoots emerge from the ground, and migrating birds return, filling the air with their songs. Your livestock, too, are stirred by the season. Cows begin to calve, ewes lamb, and sows farrow, their piglets. These births are moments of both joy and immense responsibility. you spend hours tending to the new mothers and their offspring, ensuring they are healthy and strong as they represent the future of your herd and your food supply. A sick or weak newborn can be a devastating loss. The sheer vulnerability of these new lives adds another layer of anxiety and diligent care to your already overflowing plate of duties. Moving into summer, the intensity of labor shifts but doesn't diminish. The spring planting gives way to cultivation and weeding, a relentless battle against those encroaching plants that threaten your crops. The sun climbs higher, its heat becoming oppressive, and the days are at their longest. You are constantly monitoring the weather, praying for rain at the right times, dreading hailstorms or prolonged droughts that could decimate your hard-won crops. The grain fields, tall and green, begin to fill with heads of wheat or corn, their rustling a constant whisper of the coming harvest. Summer also brings the bounty of the garden. Your wife and daughters spend countless hours tending to rows of beans, peas, squash, potatoes, and other vegetables. This garden is not merely for fresh eating. It's a vital source of food for preservation, ensuring sustenance through the winter months. You might assist with larger garden tasks, like digging potato rows or building trellises for climbing plants. The smells of ripening fruit and vegetables fill the air, a fragrant promise of the harvest to come. This period is also critical for haying, cutting, drying, and storing hay for winter feed for your livestock. This is another incredibly strenuous task, often done communally, requiring intense effort to beat the weather and get the hay under cover. As summer draws to a close and the air takes on a crisp golden hue, you move into autumn, the season of harvest. This is the culmination of all your year's labor, the moment of reckoning. The fields are transformed into a bustling scene of activity as you bring in the ripened crops. Grain is cut, bundled, and threshed. Corn is picked and shucked. Potatoes are dug from the earth. The sheer volume of work is immense, often requiring the assistance of every available hand, including neighbors and older children. This is where your strength and endurance are truly tested. Harvest is a race against time and the impending cold. A sudden early frost or a prolonged period of rain can ruin a significant portion of your crops, turning months of back-breaking labor into nothing. The air is filled with the sounds of effort, the rustle of dry corn stalks, the thud of potatoes being tossed into baskets, the rhythmic sweep of scythes through grain. Your muscles ache with a deep, pervasive fatigue, but there's also an immense sense of satisfaction as you see your barns and root cellars slowly filling with the bounty of the land. Autumn is also the time for butchering. As mentioned earlier, this is a major event, transforming your livestock into preserved meat that will feed your family through the winter. The preparation of firewood is also critical, as you constantly replenish your woodpile, ensuring a steady supply for heating and cooking during the cold months. Every dry log is a piece of warmth, a calorie saved. Finally, winter descends, blanketing the landscape in a stark, silent beauty. The fields, once vibrant with life, now lie dormant under a blanket of snow or frozen earth. The pace of outdoor farm labor slows significantly, but the work never truly stops. Your days are shorter, defined by the limited hours of daylight. Main tasks shift to animal care within the barn. ensuring your livestock are warm, well-fed, and watered through the bitter cold. This often involves breaking ice from water troughs and trudging through snow to reach the hayloft. Winter is also a time for maintenance and repairs. Inside the farmhouse, you might focus on mending tools, repairing harnesses, spinning wool, weaving fabric, and making new clothes. These indoor crafts and tasks are essential for replenishing worn-out items and preparing for the next active, growing season. It's also a time for community, though often limited by impassable roads. Social gatherings, if they occur, are often focused on the warmth of the hearth, sharing stories and simple entertainments. The cold and isolation reinforce the importance of family bonds, drawing everyone closer together. A mainstream historical fact, the widespread adoption of specific crop varieties, carefully chosen to suit local climates and growing seasons, was a critical factor in the success of 19th century American agriculture. Farmers learned through generations of trial and error which seeds performed best in their particular microclimates. A quirky tidbit: some farmers would use the phase of the moon to decide when to plant certain crops, a practice deeply rooted in folk tradition, believing it influenced germination and growth. Historians still argue whether such practices were genuinely effective or simply provided a comforting sense of control in an unpredictable world. You, however, rely more on the feel of the soil and the old almanac. The constant rhythm of these seasons dictates your entire existence. There are no vacations, no holidays that truly remove you from the demands of the farm. Your life is a continuous cycle of preparing, planting, tending, harvesting, and preserving, all in a relentless dance with nature's unpredictable forces. The success of each season depends entirely on the diligence and foresight of the previous one. This interdependence creates a deep, almost spiritual connection to the land and the cycles of life and death. As you consider the ever-turning wheel of the year, you realize that your greatest challenge and your greatest strength lies in your adaptability. You must anticipate the coming season, prepare for its unique demands, and recover from its challenges. The relentless nature of the work might seem overwhelming to an outsider, but for you, it is simply life. It is the framework upon which your existence is built, and it imbues every single day with purpose and meaning. As the last stars twinkle in the pre-dawn sky, you prepare to embrace another day, another season, another turn of the timeless wheel. You swing your legs out of bed, the cold floorboards a familiar shock against your feet. Another day has dawned, indistinguishable in its demands from the thousands that have come before it, and the thousands that will follow. Your life as a 19th century American farmer is a testament to the enduring legacy of labor, a relentless, physical, and deeply interconnected existence that formed the bedrock of a burgeoning nation. You are a living embodiment of resilience, self-sufficiency, and an unyielding connection to the earth. Think for a moment about the sheer physical stamina required just to be you. From the moment you rise before dawn until you collapse into bed long after dark, your body is in constant motion, hauling water, milking cows, swinging an axe, guiding a plow, hoeing endless rows, lifting heavy sacks of grain, mending fences. These aren't tasks you do for an hour at the gym. These are the sustained, daily activities that define your very existence. Your muscles are honed, your hands calloused, your back perpetually aching. Yet, your body answers the call, day after day, driven by an inherent understanding that your family's survival depends on it. There are no sick days, no paid time off, no ergonomic chairs, just the raw physical demand of the land. This physical endurance is matched by a profound mental fortitude. You face constant uncertainty, the whims of the weather, the unpredictable nature of pests and diseases, the fluctuating prices at market. A single hailstorm can wipe out a season's worth of work. A sudden illness can claim a vital animal. Yet, you persevere, you adapt, you learn from mistakes, you strategize for the next season, you find solutions with the limited resources at hand. There's no despair, only determination. This isn't just about growing food. It's about mastering an immensely complex system of interconnected variables, all while relying on intuition, observation, and hard-won experience. Your connection to the land is almost spiritual. It's not a commodity to be bought and sold in abstract terms. It is the very source of your life. You know every contour of your fields, every stubborn rock, every fertile patch. You understand the subtle language of the soil, the changing moods of the sky. The success of your harvest isn't about profit margins in a spreadsheet. It's about the tangible presence of food on your family's table, the warmth in your home, the clothes on your children's backs. This direct, unmediated relationship with the earth instills a sense of grounding that many in later, more industrialized societies would lose. Consider the self-sufficiency that defines your life. Almost everything you and your family consume or use is produced on your farm. Food, clothing from wool or flax you grow, fuel wood you chop, shelter, timber you fell, and even many of your tools repaired or forged by hand. This level of independence is staggering by modern standards. You aren't reliant on complex global supply chains or a vast network of specialized industries. Your survival is literally in your hands and the hands of your family. This fosters an incredible sense of empowerment and resourcefulness, a constant push to innovate and make do with what you have. A mainstream historical fact often forgotten is how common barter and direct exchange of goods and services were in rural communities, far more so than cash transactions, highlighting this self-sufficient economy. A quirky tidbit: many farmers, unable to afford store-bought candles, would collect and save every bit of animal fat tallow throughout the year, specifically for candle making, meticulously dipping wicks repeatedly until a usable candle formed. This was not just a chore, it was a deliberate act of resource management. Historians still argue whether this pervasive make-do mentality of farmers stemmed more from necessity or from a deeply ingrained cultural value of frugality and independence. For you, it's just how life is. You don't even consider other options. The family unit is not just a social structure. It is the fundamental economic engine of the farm. Every member, from the youngest child to the eldest grandparent, has a vital role. Children learn through active participation, not formal schooling, preparing them for their eventual responsibilities. The women of the household, far from being simply homemakers, are central to the farm's operation, managing complex domestic industries like textile production, food preservation, and household management, all while supporting the outdoor labor. The success of the farm is a collective triumph the failure a collective tragedy. There's an inherent unity of purpose that binds you together. This life also fosters a deep appreciation for the simple pleasures, a hot meal after a cold day, the first warm days of spring, the laughter of your children, the satisfaction of a well-tended field, the quiet companionship by the fire. These are not trivial joys. They are profound moments of contentment, hard-earned, and deeply cherished because of the relentless effort that frames them. The absence of modern distractions means your focus is on the immediate, tangible world around you, leading to a richness of experience in the mundane that we often miss. You are part of a massive, silent force that shaped America, the collective effort of millions of farmers like you, breaking new ground, tilling the soil, and coaxing sustenance from the wilderness, fueled the expansion of the nation. Your anonymous labor laid the groundwork for industrialization, for cities, for the complex society that would eventually emerge. You are the unseen foundation upon which the future is built, literally feeding a growing population. But this legacy also comes with its burdens. The constant threat of economic hardship, the physical toll on your body, the isolation, the lack of modern medical care. It's a life of constant vigilance and sacrifice. Yet there is a deep sense of dignity in your work, a profound understanding of your vital role. You are a producer, not just a consumer. You are creating something tangible, something essential, with your own hands and the sweat of your brow, as you consider the generations that came before you and those who will follow. You see a continuous thread. The tools might change slightly, the techniques might evolve, but the fundamental struggle to coax life from the earth remains constant. You are part of an unbroken lineage, inheritors of ancient knowledge and tireless resilience. The wisdom of your ancestors, gained through centuries of farming, flows through your veins, guiding your hands and informing your decisions. The day ahead stretches out, filled with its familiar sequence of demands. The first light of dawn begins to intensify, chasing away the last shadows of night. The chill in the air reminds you that warmth must be earned. The sounds of the farm animals stirring in the barn are your inexorable call to action. There's no escaping the cycle, no opting out. You are irrevocably bound to the land, to its rhythms, to its demands. But in that binding, there is also a profound sense of purpose, a quiet understanding that your labor is not just for yourself, but for your family, for your community, and for the very fabric of the young nation around you. This silent, tireless work, often overlooked in the grand narratives of history, is the true, enduring legacy of the American farmer. You are that legacy, living it, breathing it, shaping it, one demanding day at a time. The first sliver of sunlight peeks over the distant tree line, a golden promise of the new day, and with it, the undeniable urge to rise from your slumber. Your body aches, a familiar symphony of protests from overworked muscles and tired bones. But your internal clock, more reliable than any man-made device, insists it's time. You swing your legs out of bed, feeling the cold floorboards bite at your bare feet, and begin the slow, deliberate process of preparing for another day of relentless labor. As you pull on your rough woolen stockings and sturdy trousers, the chill in the room reminds you of the constant battle against the elements. You move through the hushed house, the sounds of your family still breathing softly in their shared sleeping spaces, a gentle rhythm of life. The kitchen, still permeated with the faint scent of last night's wood smoke, calls to you. Your first task is always the hearth, coaxing the banked embers back to life, watching the first hesitant flames lick at the kindling. This daily act of fire starting is more than just a chore. It's a symbolic reignition of the heart of your home, a promise of warmth, sustenance, and light. You step outside, the crisp morning air filling your lungs, carrying the familiar scents of damp earth hay and the subtle, pungent aroma of the barn. The stars are fading, but the moon, perhaps a sliver, perhaps a full, luminous orb, still casts a pale, ethereal light over the dukest fields. You breathe it all in, the quiet, the cold, the profound sense of solitude that characterizes these pre-dawn moments. This is your world, an expanse of land that stretches out under the vast sky, shaped by your hands and your unwavering will. You make your way to the barn, the rhythmic lowing of the cattle growing louder, more insistent with each step. They are hungry, impatient, and their demands are non-negotiable. You fork down generous piles of hay, the sweet, dusty scent filling the barn as they bury their heads in the mangers. Then comes the milking, the rhythmic swoosh swoosh of warm milk hitting the pail, a sound that speaks of direct sustenance, of calories earned. Each pull, each drop is a direct link between your labor and your family's survival. You check on the pigs, providing their morning slop, enduring their enthusiastic grunts and squeals. You scatter feed for the clamoring chickens, gathering the warm eggs, each one a small, perfect package of protein with the animals tended to. You might turn your attention to the woodpile, grabbing your axe. The sharp crack of steel against wood echoes in the still morning air as you split logs for the day's fires. Or perhaps you head to the well, hauling heavy buckets of water for drinking, cooking, and washing. Every task, no matter how small, is a physical exertion, a deliberate act of providing for your family and your farm. As the sun finally crests the horizon, painting the fields in hues of gold and rose, you take a deep breath. The first major wave of morning chores is done, but the day has only just begun. Your thoughts turn to the fields, the newly plowed furrows, the freshly planted seeds, the emerging crops that are still vulnerable to weeds and pests. You head out, perhaps hitching the team to the plow again for another section, or grabbing your hoe for the endless battle against the encroaching weeds. Each step across the dukest earth is a reaffirmation of your purpose, a commitment to coaxing sustenance from the soil. The midday meal, a brief but vital respite, offers a moment to refuel, to connect briefly with your family in the warmth of the kitchen. You eat quickly, efficiently, savoring every bite of the simple, hearty food sustenance earned through the sweat of your brow. Then it's back to the fields, the afternoon sun beating down, your muscles protesting, but your will driving you forward. The repetitive motions of plowing, planting, or cultivating become a meditative dance, your body and mind focused on the tangible progress you make with each passing hour. As the afternoon light begins to soften and the shadows lengthen across the fields, you push for those last precious moments of daylight. You unhitch your animals, leading them back to the barn for their evening feed and rest. Your body aches with a profound, bone-deep weariness, but there's also a quiet satisfaction in seeing the day's tangible accomplishments. another section plowed, another field planted, another battle won against the relentless weeds. The evening brings the final set of chores, the second milking, the last rounds of feeding, a final check on the security of the barn and pens. Then you retreat to the farmhouse, shedding the grime of the fields, entering the realm of domesticity. The kitchen remains the heart of the home, alive with the soft glow of lamplight and the quiet industry of your wife and daughters. They are spinning, mending, preparing the lighter evening meal, ensuring the continuous functioning of the household. You might sit by the fire, mending a tool, sharpening a knife, or simply reflecting on the day. The simple evening meal, eaten in the quiet glow, provides a final moment of family connection before sleep. There are no grand entertainments, just the quiet rhythm of shared existence. The comforting presence of loved ones after a day of solitary toil. As the fire dwindles to embers and the house settles into the profound stillness of rural night, you prepare for sleep. Your body, utterly spent, welcomes the hard mattress. The silence, broken only by the natural sounds of the night, wraps around you, pulling you into a deep, restorative slumber. You might dream of the fields, of the animals, of the rhythms that define your life, a subconscious continuation of your waking world. This has been the daily life of a 19th century American farmer, a relentless cycle of physical labor, profound self-sufficiency, and an unyielding connection to the land and the seasons. It's a life that shaped the very foundation of a nation, built on the sweat and resilience of individuals like you. There's an immense dignity in this work, a stark honesty that links effort directly to survival. You are not a cog in a vast industrial machine. You are the master of your own small domain, coaxing life from the earth with your own hands. Your story, though seemingly mundane, is a testament to the enduring human spirit, to the capacity for perseverance in the face of immense challenge. It reminds us of a time when every meal was earned, every comfort meticulously crafted, and every day was a direct negotiation with the raw forces of nature. You are the quiet hero of this unfolding history, a figure whose unwavering dedication laid the groundwork for everything that followed. As the sun begins its slow ascent, painting the eastern sky in soft, gentle hues, and the first whispers of dawn greet the waking world, the profound quiet of the farm gently envelops you. Feel the last traces of your day drift away, softening at the edges like the fading light. Your journey through the tireless life of the 19th century farmer is nearing its end. Let the images fade, the sounds soften, and the relentless demands of the past gently recede. You have witnessed a life of immense labor, but also one of profound purpose and quiet dignity. Feel your own breath deepen, your body relax, as the echoes of the farm lull you into a peaceful, dreamless sleep.